Like, yeah, sure. Like I didn't play a lot of sports, so I was like, I'm open to trying new things. And as soon as I got on the ice, it was just a lot of fun, and I've just been playing it ever since. It's just one of those things. It's a really good sport. The community is awesome. Like it's just a great overall vibe.
I understand you've competed at a really high level in sledge hockey.
Yeah.
Can you share some insight into kind of where you've played and everything you've accomplished in the
So
sport?
the first 2 years were ran by like Kindersley managers and like Kindersley crew. So that was how do I explain it? Because yeah, it's hard to explain because it's not ran the same like other provincial teams. So I guess for nationals we played out in Alberta, we played in Quebec, and then Hockey Sask took over, and then last year we lost a lot of players, so we couldn't play. This year we're starting up again in December, so hopefully we'll have enough players for a team. It should be in Nova Scotia this year, so that'll be really exciting if that can work out. What else were you asking about?
Yeah, just kind of just everything you've like played. So like all that stuff, is that with like the provincial team?
Yeah, so that's for Team Sask. So it's still like abled and disabled players can play together. If I were to play for Team Canada, like I'd have to have a disability. So that's what's fun is like you can still play at a competitive level without like because in comparison to club teams, it's like not as competitive. So I like having that competitive aspect. So that's why I like playing at a higher level. So I really hope it works out this year.
Yeah, awesome. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about athletes with disabilities, especially sledge hockey players?
Well, I guess, just in sledge hockey in general, everyone thinks that you have to have a disability to play. The amount of times I tell people I play sledge hockey and they're like, oh, you don't seem disabled. It's like, because I'm not. And that's what's so great about it is that it's equal playing field. Anyone can play. I guess some people, when they hear they have a disability, they think they're weaker than that of like someone with a disability or like without a disability. And actually, I think a lot of the best players usually do have disabilities, and it just depends on how they train and compete. Like it sometimes makes them stronger. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I guess you kind of talked about like some of the benefits. I guess. How do you feel about people with disabilities and people without disabilities playing on the same team? Like, are there any like downsides to having them?
Not really. Like I guess like in the competitive aspect, if you can play the sport, abled or disabled doesn't really make a difference as long as like for me as a competitive player, I like someone who knows what they're doing. If you can play at that level, I have no issue with it. And there's a lot of talented players like who have disabilities, and then like obviously there are weaker players who do have disabilities as well. But like, yeah. I never have an issue playing with them as long as they try their best, of course.
Yeah. So you talked a lot about Team Canada. You have to have a disability. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering like why, if you have any insight into that.
That's just how the rules have been, because usually like when you play for Team Canada, you're training to be in the Paralympics, so you need a disability to be in the Paralympics. And then there's a lot of other tournaments as well, like they have the World Sledge Hockey Tournament, which I got to see recently in Moose Jaw, which was super, super cool. It's just, that's just their rule, like you just have to have a disability, and it makes sense, like I get it.
Yeah. With people with disabilities and people without disabilities playing together, do you find that there's more of a community with the sport that way? Do you feel like it's good for the growth of sledge hockey?
Sorry, repeat that.
I guess having people without disabilities play sledge hockey.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's
good for the community?
Like good for the community?
I think getting as many people involved is kind of like what's best. Like the amount of times you go to a tournament and you're just talking to people regardless of able or disabled, it's just like it brings people together, and like the bigger that community grows, the more awareness it spreads, and it's just, and then the more people that get involved, it's just, I think it's good in that sense.
What improvements could be made to make not necessarily just sledge hockey, but all sport more accessible for people with disabilities, but also everybody?
I guess it depends on the sport. For sledge hockey specifically, I guess the biggest thing is just having awareness and
Yeah.
getting more people involved. We're slowly have in the last little while, less and less people are playing, which makes it tough for the sport to grow. So just getting more people involved and like having it spread around more, definitely I think is best for any sport really, because like there's a lot of like really cool sports that have like that able disabled factor that we don't know about because it's just not spread enough. So like proper information like and awareness, I feel like would be like the best sort of way to improve that sort of stuff.
And then how do you suggest that we like spread awareness and gather new information? Would it be something through like elementary schools?
I think that's slowly what we're working on because like we're always like every year trying new things, but I think we're trying to do like we're constantly doing try it days. You got to experience one of them, but I think what we need to do is work more towards the elementary schools because once you kind of do it young, you can kind of get more used to it and like practice more, you kind of grow attached to it more. It's tougher to get older guys to do it because, well, you have other priorities. You have a job, like you got like schools, like it's tough to kind of make it fit. So I think that's slowly what we're working on is getting towards more like elementary school students to kind of get them young so that they get more attached to the sport.
Yeah. Awesome. Is removing the stigma of this sport being specifically for people with disabilities kind of something you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, we're always trying to say like with our promotional ads, like abled and disabled, like it doesn't matter who you are. If you can hold a stick, like you can play. And some players literally play with one hand. Like it doesn't matter. Like
Awesome. Yeah, and like you said, yeah, I did get to come out and do the try it day with you guys, and that was a blast. Honestly, I had so much fun doing that, and it really changed my perspective. I would say, like you guys are all crazy out there doing like crazy turns, and I was watching you guys play. You guys could whip that puck around, like there's no tomorrow. And so I was wondering if you think people just going out and doing these try it days or even just watching the sport, if you think that would help kind of shift the narrative.
Yeah, like I feel like every once in a while some people kind of do know about it, and once they see it they're really impressed. So the more people that can see it, I feel like can slowly grow that sort of narrative like this is a really cool sport, it's a really fun sport. And the more like as years go on, I hear more and more people hearing about it, and it's just great to hear.
Awesome. Is there anything that you'd want to say to someone either with a disability or without a disability that is looking to try sledge hockey but maybe just not quite sure about it?
Just give it a chance. We always have our try it days, so it's like as long as you have a helmet and like some gloves, just give it a chance. And like if you like it, you keep playing. If not, then at least you know. And I feel like for a lot of people, they get out there and they love it. And so it's just a matter of like, can you commit to it? But like at the end of the day, like it's just give it a chance, and I know like they'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else?
I think I've covered everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully we can help spread awareness about the International Day of Persons with Disabilities and some of the cool sports and everything associated.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, I'm here chatting with Mackay Mulligan. We're going to talk about International Day of Disabilities, which is actually today, Tuesday, December 3rd. So you're a student athlete with the University of Regina. What have you done in your life that's brought you around people with disabilities?
Per se, my mom, she used to work at Ranchero, so she would bring people around all the time, and that kind of affected me. So now, currently, I work at a place called Claire Parker Homes. So I work with a bunch of people that have FASD, so fetal alcohol syndrome, Down syndrome, all types of autism. So that's what just kind of drawn me, because I saw family members do it. So I thought, maybe it's something I'd love to do, and I do love it. It really makes you think in a different perspective, because you are assisting these people throughout the day. Like a lot of them, they can do everyday tasks, but some of them struggle, and it's kind of an eye-opening experience.
And would you say that these experiences have helped to influence how you approach your future with your career coming up out of school?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm in education right now, and with dreams and hopes to potentially be a teacher and or school resource officer, and it kind of gives you that second lens. It's in a sense kind of disheartening seeing how a lot of people who have disabilities, whether that be physical or cognitive, go through school without having any extra hands, or being able to participate in certain aspects like gym, because not everything at their school or facility has these accessible things.
So in that case, do you think that, talking about gym class there, do you think that, what role do you think that having adaptive sport and sport that everybody can access in schools helps to break down those barriers?
Oh yeah, it breaks down those barriers because it gives everyone the sense of like inclusion. So like working with individuals, they want to be included. They don't want to be cast aside. Like I know right now we're working with modules in one of my EPS classes. It's like we're making these things accessible. Like say we're doing jigging. Say you're teaching jigging. You want to find ways to make those accessible for someone, for say in a wheelchair. So instead of if they're in a wheelchair, there's a big chance they can't walk. Instead of getting them to do like a resting step with their feet, get them to do it with their hands. Make them feel involved, because if they're feeling involved, it'll make them want to be more involved, and it'll in all end make them be successful as an individual.
That's a good answer. So do you think that as an athlete, with the kind of the platform that you have and the exposure that you would have, do you think there's a way that you could use that to kind of create some awareness and understanding around people with disabilities, and just make sure that the public and everybody else kind of understands how you see it?
Yeah, 100%. Like the first thing is just like bringing it up with the boys, like eliminating those negative words in the locker room, because honestly, like talking to some of the people I support, it hurts them. It's like no different than calling a person of color a derogatory term. Sure, it used to be like an actual scientific word, but there's that guttural feeling behind it. It hurts. And like another way like I can shed light and bring awareness to it is just openly talking about it, like bringing people around. Like for say my one of the individuals I work with, I'm trying to bring him around the boys, get him involved with football, because he loves sports, but he hasn't been able to play sports. I just want to get them involved so the boys can see it's like, okay, he's never really had this opportunity. Let's do our best to give it to him.
Yeah, that makes sense. So from your experiences, what do you think the people in the general public can do to create a more inclusive society for people with disabilities?
There's lots that you can do, but like the first thing that comes to mind is accessibility. You see everywhere, like Regina is very bad. Regina is not a very accessible place for people who are wheelchair bound and whatnot. So I think just kind of harping on that, we need to do a better job on making our city accessible. That could be just a big factor.
And changing gears a little bit here, what's kind of the most rewarding thing you've found through your experience working with people with disabilities so far?
The relationships and smiles, like I take my individual out for a ride because they've been inside all week. Just the smiles and the laughs, and just like being able to be a part of their daily lives, because sometimes they need someone. Yeah,
that makes sense. So kind of going a bit broader with this one, in general, do you think that, as you're saying, how language has changed over the course of time when it comes to people with disabilities, and just using proper language as science has developed, do you think that society is heading in the right direction to create better change and be more inclusive, or do you think there's more that still should be done differently?
Yes, I can just say yes, because it seems like in today's world, it's very inclusive, and people strive to to make people feel welcome. Like, sure, there's going to be those outsiders that don't, but overall, you could say Canada is becoming a better place, let alone Regina, and becoming more inclusive. Sure, there's a bunch of barriers and walls they still need to get through, but I think we're doing a pretty good job becoming an inclusive society, whether that be with language or facilities.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Well, that's the last question I got for you here. Thanks, Mackay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're here with Maddie Seda from the University of Regina women's basketball team. Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
Why don't you begin? Just introduce me to yourself. Who's Maddie?
Well, obviously my name is Maddie. I play on the UFR women's basketball team, and I'm in my 4th year right now. So I'm one of the older girls on the team. Learned a lot being on a team with girls the past 4 years, and this year I feel like I'm a bit more of a leader on the team, and I guess you could say my role is a shooting guard. So yeah.
That's awesome. We're gonna jump right into some questions I have here for you. I'll begin just by asking, are you familiar with IDPD Day, International Day for Persons with Disabilities?
Actually, yeah, I am familiar with IDPD Day because I took this class last year and I was introduced to it by Brenda, and I did a whole project on it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your project?
Yeah, so I did, me and my partner organized a wheelchair basketball game at halftime during one of the Cougar basketball games. So we brought in some athletes from Sask Wheelchair Sports Association. So we brought some of those athletes in, and then we also got some kind of random volunteers to come in who weren't as familiar with the sport, and they played a game at halftime, and I thought it was a really cool way of kind of promoting IDPD Day and just bringing some laughter and fun to the game.
That's awesome to hear. I was going to ask you how you've used your platform as an athlete to advocate for people with disabilities in sport, but I guess that kind of answers that question. Next, I'll ask you, in your view, what do you think are some barriers that exist for athletes with disabilities?
I think sometimes it can be difficult for athletes with disabilities to gain the resources that they need to play accessible sports. For example, like, I know wheelchairs for wheelchair basketball can be quite pricey, and sometimes it might be hard to, find the financial resources to get one of those, or even just the connections to find someone who can hook them up with one of them. So I know, like, finding those access to resources can be really difficult sometimes.
Nice. So I'm going to give you a parallel here. So for hockey, which I'm familiar with more, growing up, you don't really ever see any ads or anything for para hockey. Do you find that similar for wheelchair basketball compared to your experience with basketball?
I would say, like, on the media or within the media, I would definitely say, like, there's not as much of a presence or as much of a space for wheelchair basketball. But I actually did grow up, like, playing RCBA basketball, and they would, like, once a season, they would bring in wheelchairs and we would get to play wheelchair basketball. So I was kind of familiar with it in that sense. And also at my school, like my elementary school, I remember they would, like, bring wheelchairs in and we would try play wheelchair basketball and test them out and stuff. So yeah, in that sense, I was aware of it, but I would say, like, in social media and just, like, in terms of promoting sport, like, it's just not promoted as often as, like, basketball would be.
Okay, yeah. So how do you think athletes, regardless of their ability,
can contribute to the awareness and celebration of International Day for Persons with Disabilities?
I would say that athletes could get involved by trying new adapted sports, such as like para volley or wheelchair basketball or sledge hockey. I think that brings a lot of awareness to that sport, and it also just allows them to have a new experience within sport. And maybe with that, then they go and tell their friends, hey, like I tried para volley the other day, and then maybe that encourages others to try those or try those adapted sports.
Yeah, I think that could also, especially pro and popular college athletes, like in the States, if they were to post on social media, I think it would influence a lot of little kids to get involved too, which could be important or helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, lastly, can you share an experience where you became more aware of the challenges faced by an athlete with a disability?
Yeah, so last year I was volunteering at this track event, and it was Sask Wheelchair Sports Association. They were like partnering with like another track team, and they brought out some para athletes, and specifically this one guy came out and he shared a story about how he actually became an Olympic sprinter, and he talked about like the challenges he faced in order to like make it to that high level. And I thought that was really interesting just to see his perspective. And I also thought it was really cool because it broadened my viewpoint, because I got to like see like the different equipment needed and used in track for like adapted track and field, and I thought that was really neat. And they try to open it up to other para athletes, and not many people showed up, and I think that's like another part of the challenges that they might have, is just like bringing people in who might be interested in these sports. It can be hard to like find those athletes and introduce them to the sport. So yeah, that's another challenge that they face.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining the podcast today. If we ever have another episode, we'll be happy to have you back.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.